But when you race, like, you want to kick your teammate's butt, like, you're not going to like, hey, Parker, go ahead of me, you had a better week. No, like, Katrina, you try to kill Parker in a race, or, beat him, or Ellie, do not let Emily beat you in a 1500, or Emily, don't let Ellie beat you, you guys race to the death, but other than, except for when we're racing, like friends off the track, then you can be enemies on the track.
That was Coach Mark Coogan today on the Running Effect podcast. If you're not familiar with Coach Mark Coogan, he's one of the most successful coaches in our sport at the moment. I'll just name two of his athletes that I'm sure many of you guys are familiar with, and that kind of illustrates his success. Elle St. Pierre, and most recently Parker Valby, the internet sensation herself. One of the cool things about Coach Coogan is he actually had a remarkably successful career as an athlete himself. He actually has the distinction of being the first Massachusetts native to run a mile in under 4 minutes. And then in his post-collegiate running career, he ranked in the top 10 in the United States in the mile, steeplechase, 5K, 10K, and marathon during his career. Absolutely remarkable. He retired from competitive running in 2004 and turned his focus to coaching full-time, where he spent time as the distance coach at Dartmouth College, Tufts University, MIT, and Phillips Exeter Academy. He now coaches the New Balance Boston group, where he's coached a plethora of Olympians, national champions, so many people who have done remarkable things in the sport, both on the men's side and more particularly on the women's side. Today's conversation centers around the principles of success and excellence that Coach Coogan has illustrated throughout his career. Thoroughly enjoyed this one. One of my favorite parts was we dive deep into training philosophy. A lot of high-level coaches, I think, are pretty secretive about what they give their athletes, but Coach Coogan was anything but that. He was taking me through workouts, his mindset on strides, all sorts of really intriguing things that I found a lot of value from learning from him. So hope you guys enjoy this one. If you do, share this episode and the podcast in general with a friend, a family member, a teammate, someone who you think would find value and benefit from it. Give us a 5-star review and hit the follow or subscribe button wherever you're listening to podcasts. Without further ado, enjoy this conversation with the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, Coach Mark Coogan. Coach Mark Coogan, welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing really well. Thanks for having me on.
I didn't do enough time to fact check myself here, but I'm pretty confident in myself. I think you complete the first ever father-son duo to come on the podcast, because I had on your son, Will, with Patrick Anderson last year. So you complete that duo. I love that conversation with Will. Obviously, he shared his story of the tragic incident that happened coming up on 2 years ago. Just starting the conversation probably in a way in which you didn't expect, keeping you on your toes. Can you speak to that father-son relationship? And something I think a lot of people who are invested in the sport think a lot about is, like, how will they direct and coach their kids one day if they get into the sport? What's that relationship been like for you, and how have you been invested in his running while also taking a back seat?
Yeah, I mean, I've really taken a back seat in Williams running because I wanted him to fall into running on his own. Like he was a baseball player in high school and a soccer player in high school, and running. He knew he was pretty good at running, but it wasn't like we didn't force it down his throat or anything like that. And I think, because running's so hard, if it's not fun, if it turns out to be a job when you're in high school or in college, you're never going to do well. And so, so I've always taken a back seat and just been like the supportive parent and just, cheering him on. And, especially after that car accident, anytime I just see him run, it makes me feel good, even if he doesn't have the race that he was really hoping to. Like last weekend, I saw him racing at BU last Saturday, and he ran 4:01 for the mile, and he really wanted to break 4 minutes, but he just tied up a little bit over the last 200. But to me, I was just happy to see him out there running, And Patrick was out there running too. Patrick ran 3:58, so it was great to see the two of them, and their teammate ran 3:48. So like Coach Miltenberg has it rolling down there at UNC right now.
You obviously, and we can get into this in this conversation, had a really impressive career yourself, both on the track and on the roads. At what point did your kids become aware that their dad was a stud back in the day in the sport of running?
I don't know. I mean, we always ran. So like Will's mom ran too. She was on the Olympic team in '92 for 10K in Barcelona. And then like I was on the team in '96 and stuff. But they always knew that we ran. I think it was really pretty low key at home. I think that they were more excited if I ran a race in LA and I could take them to Disney World or something like that, Disneyland, whatever it is out there, instead of how the race went. But they've always been around running, and a lot of our friends are elite runners, like Olympic medalists or whatever, world record holders at the time, and they just see these people as just normal. They don't see them as these world-class athletes. They just see them as, oh, there's Arturo, from down the street or something like that. So I think that's a pretty healthy way to have it.
You were talking about Will and how he had experience in other sports before finding his love for running in high school. You yourself, I was reading, you played basketball in high school, and you were even skilled enough to receive some scholarship offers to play basketball at some lower level schools. Take me through that journey. Before running, there was basketball for you. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, I played baseball and basketball and whatever, but basketball was really like my first love, in like middle school and high school. And we had a pretty competitive high school basketball team. Colleges weren't knocking down the door to offer me scholarships, but a lot of D3 schools, good D3 schools, I could have played at. And, they were getting in touch with my high school coach asking if I was interested. And he was already, he started telling them, like, this kid can really run. Like, he's got like Olympic level potential running. He's not going to, he's going to go to a D1 school and try to run track the best he can. And so they kind of backed off, but loved basketball. When I retired from running, I coached JV basketball with a friend of mine for a few years, and that was a blast. As I was, just starting to get into, I was coaching cross country and JV basketball, and even helping with a baseball team at Phillips Exeter, and that told me, it helped me learn how to coach a little bit, but it also told me that I felt like I could be a really good cross-country track coach, and then I kind of dove into it head first.
I was going to ask you, you mentioned coaching at the JV level, but in an alternate universe where you throw all your eggs in one basket and try to explore the pursuit of coaching basketball, how far do you think you could have gone? I mean, you're one of the best coaches in the world for running. But let's take it to basketball. How far do you think you could have gone?
I don't know, assistant coach at some college somewhere. Because
Okay.
when I was at Dartmouth, I became really good friends with the basketball coaches, because we would play at lunchtime, and some of my friends are head coaches now. One of my teammates from high school is the head coach at St. Bonaventures in upstate New York, and he's brought teams to the NCAA tournament a bunch of times, and I don't know, and I think the way coaching has changed now, it's like when I was in high school a little bit, there was still like that negative reinforcement that that coaches had, and I kind of thrived in that, but now you have to be like a positive reinforcement type coach. You can't, people don't want to hear negative things, they don't like to be threatened anymore. And so I've somehow figured out how to be like a real, a positive coach, and make the team environment fun, friendly, safe, instead of like a punishment if they're late or things like that, or go run if you're late,
Right.
what are you gonna do? Something. So, but you can't. But even like a pro coach now, it's more positive reinforcement. It's more making sure that the total person's doing well, I think, and I think I've gotten pretty good at that.
In conversations with those basketball friends who happen to be coaches within the sport of basketball or your own pursuits back in the day, coaching JV, how much crossover is there from coaching sport to sport? Do you think it's pretty similar, or do you think it's pretty tailored to the given sport?
I think creating a team environment is similar, right? Like, you and I were talking a little bit before we started this, how like the seventh man on a cross-country team is just as important as the first man. And I think, the first guy off the bench on a basketball team, the sixth man, could be just as important as the first the best player on the team, depending on, what they bring when they step on the court, positive energy, when they're sitting on the bench and not playing, they have good body language and they're encouraging their teammates. So there's a lot of similarities, Even the eighth man on a college cross-country team can push the team forward more than you would think.
When you think to building team culture, what do you think are the biggest things that contribute to healthy, positive team culture?
I think that having healthy, happy people on the team is really important, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get. Like when you're a college coach recruiting, or like I think when I recruit people to my team, it's a little bit easier because I can talk to their college coach and they've done 4 years, and I can see them. And every race is on the internet now or on TV, or I could go watch it. But I think it's still a little bit difficult, for a college coach, because they're getting kids that are 18 years old, American kids, if they're American, they're 18 years old, and they're still changing and going through, their brain is still developing and their bodies are still changing. So I think it's a little bit tougher to be a coach to get the exact right right type of people. But once you get that established, the kids on your team will actually do a lot of the recruiting for you, because they'll know other people around the country or around the world, and they can tell what these recruits, what it's like, what the coach is like. And so once the team gets rolling, it seems like the team kind of recruits for itself, and they recruit people that are similar to them, because that's what they feel comfortable in, that environment.
I wouldn't be surprised if you talk about this in your book, which I'm sure will be brought up in this conversation, as well as just the principles from it you'll speak on, and I'll leave a link to that in the show notes for people who want to read that writing of yours, which I know is big popular around the running world and a lot of people have found value from. But how much of coaching would you say is science versus art, and where do you feel like you fall on that spectrum of the science versus the art?
I think I know the science fairly well, but I'm more of a people person. So I think you have to have a rough idea about all the science, but it's more important to be a person that can read people well, that understands people. I think that's the most important thing. So I would say, it might be like 30% knowing the science exactly, and 70%, or 60-40, somewhere in that. I think, if you went out for someone goes out in a 20-mile run, I mean, I don't know how many new capillary beds they're going to lay down in their, quads or something like that, or like how many, 4 weeks at altitude, how much iron do they have to take in to keep their ferritin levels up and things like that. But I have a rough idea, and when I don't know an answer to something, I'll go find out. So like my team's pretty lucky that the USOC, the U.S. Olympic Committee, we can call them up, or we can send them a blood test, or USATF does the same thing. So like when we have questions, we can often get answers. We have a really good orthopedic doctor in Boston, Dr. 1040, who he knows running inside and out, and and he likes our team. And so if someone gets injured or something's bugging them, it's just a phone call away. And, Dr. 1040 tries to get them in really quickly. And he knows how important every day is. So I think for me, it's more important to, to be that good guy, understand what's going on. I know how to get people into shape. I know how to get people to run a mile and everything like that. But I don't have X-ray vision. I can't tell if their leg's hurting, or if there's a stress fracture or a stress reaction, or if they had a breakup with a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or whoever their significant other is. Like I'm not a mind reader. So like I think it's really important to have that communication where they tell me how they're feeling and they're honest with me. And I'm pretty honest with the team. If I think somebody can run a 420 mile, I'll say, I honestly think you can run a 420 mile. I'm not going to say, oh, you can run 412, and then they go out and try to run 412 and die and run 430, and then they're upset, So I'm pretty, honest about what I think they can do and can't do.
You mentioned the percentage, like 30, 70, 60, 40, whatever it might be. How much do you feel like that pendulum has swung throughout the years? Like if I asked you that question, the art versus the science, your first year of coaching way back in the day, would it be a different response, or do you feel like you've always been pretty similar in terms of coaching philosophy?
I'm like when I probably first started coaching, I probably would have pulled out Jack Daniel's book a little bit more or something like that. But like when I was running, I ran with so many good people and none of them were really like, diving into science, all the time. Like we would go down to the track and there'd be like 8 or 9 of us, and one person would say like, what were you thinking about doing today? And he might say, I was thinking about doing 8x800, and then like Arturo might say, I was thinking about doing 5x2K, and somebody else was saying, well, I was just going to do 1200s, and then someone would say, well, why don't we do 6 times a mile? And it's like, it's close, and then we'd have people to run with. We'd all run a little bit faster. It wouldn't be as mentally, exhausting. Somebody would be breaking the wind on everyone, so it made like this camaraderie that just made it a ton of fun, and so I've always kind of operated like that. And, at certain times, you have to be really specific. Like if you're running a big mile, you don't want to run 6 times a mile the week before or something like that. But, you could find someone else that's running the mile, and it probably doesn't matter if you're doing 400s or 300s. You're just trying to get a little speed work in and, get ready for the race. That's always been kind of my approach. Sorry, like on the team, we say we're always like, we're just getting the work in today. Like if it's if we're doing a 5-mile tempo run and it's super windy or something, we might just turn it into miles with a minute rest. So then you can turn around and get the wind, at your back the whole time, or just go straight and whatever. And so like we just know we're getting the work in. And say you want to run 5-minute miles, but it's snowy and windy out, and you have a lot of gear on, and a 5-minute mile might be 5:15 in those conditions. And like I really get excited when my team's like, yeah, we just ran 5:15, but man, that would, if we were on a track and it was nice out, that would have been 5 flat, and that tells me they get it, because they know they're getting the work in and putting the effort in and stuff like that.
Do you think people overcomplicate training these days? Because I bet if I talked to you back in your college days running, well, you did kind of mention it with your buddies and how you guys would adjust workouts. It was just like, let's run hard a few times a week and run a lot of mileage between days to recover, and we'll probably get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think I overtrained when I was running, and I think my college teammates, we did like every workout kind of turned into a race and stuff, and like I've kind of figured that out, and like I'll make sure we're not racing workouts, and we talk a lot about B+ type stuff. You want to go hard, but you always want to feel like you could have done another set or another interval like that. Like we talk about, it's more important to have 3 months of not missing a workout than having 2 A+ workouts and then your Achilles hurts and you're missing a week of training, or you get run down because school's hard and missing you're not sleeping quite enough. And so I think like just consistency, I would say, is probably one of the most important things in training a distance runner, or being a distance runner, being really consistent in your training.
You mentioned a few minutes ago that you know how to coach people to run a fast mile. That's obviously true from the results that have shown from the past few years, but a lot of people who listen to this podcast are a younger age, and I think either in the thick of their indoor season or gearing up for an outdoor season. And I think it's a popular question on everyone's mind. How do I run a faster mile? Maybe there's some 60-year-old out there who wants to run a fast mile for the first time. What are Mark Coogan's top keys off the top of your head to running a fast mile and training for it?
I mean, like we talk like, so like just say, I tell a lot of people this, say you want to, break 5 minutes in the mile, so 75 seconds a lap, right? Basically 75 seconds for a 400. Like almost everybody that wants to break 5 minutes in the mile can run a 75, right? And most of them can run a 230, 800. But running 345, it starts to get a little bit tough, but it's only a 75 still, right? And then only one more 75 after that, you're 5 flat. And I'm always saying like, well, why does it get hard to, run 75s? And they're like, and if they say like, well, I'm just not doing enough speed work, I need to run 60-second 400s. I'm like, no, you probably need, a little bit more strength, you need to be, maybe a little bit more aerobically strong so you don't get exhausted running these 75s, and it's the same thing for like some of the women that I coach, like 4 minutes for the 1500s is 64s. And like, everybody on my team they all can run like probably a 54 or 53 or 55 or something for a 400, but running 464s in a row without a break is what gets tough. So I think, you need some miles, you need a little bit of mileage in there. You need to have your strength. We do a lot of we do a lot of work at like 5K pace. So like we do a lot of work at 15 flat 5K pace, which is 72s. So like 224 for an 8. We do a lot of, 3-minute Ks, 222 to 225 800s. And we just try to get strong as an ox. They're not too beat up after they do stuff like that. And then that makes them be able to handle those, 75, 75, 75 if they want to break 5 minutes in the mile, or, 64, 64, 64 to break 4 minutes for 1500. And we do a lot of strides. We do like if we're sharpening it up, obviously we're going to do some 200s or 300s or a couple of quarters that would be faster, but we don't do a ton of it. We definitely don't do a ton of it, and we stay healthy for the most part.
What do you think is missing from most people's training when you look at modern day training? Not even the professional world, because majority of people listening are going to be professional runners.
Yeah, I would say like. I think people might do too much speed work, Some people might disagree with me, but I think people, I don't think you need to go to the track 3 times a week, to make an Olympic team or, make an Olympic final or win your state meet or something like that. I laughed, and I talked to Coach Miltenberg, and I talked about this a little bit. It was like when Ethan Strand and Parker Wolf ran 7:30 for 3K back in December at BU. It was like 2 weeks after they just ran 10K cross country. And they hadn't been on the track. They hadn't been doing anything fast. They were just strong as oxes from doing cross country work all fall. Like they had run a 5 miler and 2 10Ks in the last month before that day. And like you would think in your head, like that's not how you go set, a NCAA D1 collegiate record for 3K by running, 2 10K cross country races. But that's what they did. And when all these, like I've seen a lot of people at like BU after that first December race, where a lot of people run fast coming off of cross country. They say, oh my God, I just ran, X time and I haven't done any speed work, and then they'll run their conference championship in February or March, and they'll do the same event and they'll run slower, and they've been doing all the speed work. It's because they're not doing their 70, 80 miles a week anymore. Now they're doing 50 and going to the track a couple times a week, and they're running slower. So I'm kind of a strength guy. Yeah.
How do you find that unique balance where I'm sure if we look at Ellie's training leading into the Olympics, like there's some sort of taper off and maybe some sort of sharpening. It's certainly not the example that you gave, which happens all the time, by the way, in high school and college, where runners will slowly run worse as they bring down mileage and start hitting the track more. So how do you find that right balance of the two?
Yeah. Well, we always do. We always have some kind of threshold work every week, and for probably 80% of the year, we'll do that on Tuesdays. So it would be some kind of tempo run or cruise intervals, but something, more tempo-y. And then on Friday, we usually do something, faster, more event specific. But for my team, it's mostly like 5K stuff, even if they're like a steeplechase or a mile, or for like most of the time we do 5K type stuff. And but like when a big race is coming up, a couple weeks out, we'll ramp it up a little bit. We might, do like 4 times 800 at, mile PR pace or something. Let's do 4 times 800 at 2:06, or something like that. Or let's do, an 800 time trial, not all out, but, run close to 2 minutes, take a good break, and then do some 4s or something like that, or, do a little tempo work and then do another hard 8, So like we'll touch on it, but we try not to do it, too often. And there's strengths there, and so they can always like get down there. I think another thing that we do that I don't know if other teams do it, but we do 8 to 10 by 100 meter strides, like, 5 times a week after runs, So like Monday when we're done running, we're doing strides. Tuesday before our session, we're doing strides. Wednesday after our run, we're doing strides. Thursday, we're doing strides. Friday before our session, we're doing strides. So we do a lot of strides. And I learned that from Arturo Barrios. He had the world record at 10K back in the day, and he used to do 10 times 100 meters after every run, every run. And he was running twice a day. So he's getting, 2,000 meters of strides every single day, and so you touch, so you like, you're touching on your fast twitch a little bit. They don't beat you up. They kind of loosen you up. They strengthen your tendons. They open your stride up. They do a lot of really good things for you, and you don't carry it into the next day.
What's the theory behind, so if you have a Tuesday workout, right, that next Wednesday you're doing strides, what's the theory behind still doing strides the day after a workout? Because in my mind, you're up here, you can't even see my hand, you're so much smarter than me, it's unbelievable. But I would always take Wednesday as like a pure recovery day. So what's the thought process there?
Yeah, so they're like on a Wednesday they might go just putt 10 miles or something. They'll just run how they feel. Very conversational pace. I don't get caught up on the time or anything. And but if you run like 8 miles or 10 miles, like when you're done, like sometimes you feel tighter, or you like your back. You feel like your form might be going. You're sitting down a little bit more, and just get back and you do eight times 100 meters, at 80%. All of a sudden you just feel good. You feel like a little snap gets back in your legs. It's not going to make you tired. It's not depleting anything. It's probably going to loosen you up, and it's going to make you feel better on Thursday. So, so I don't even think twice about strides. Like they don't make you tired. They just make you good, or make you feel better,
Right.
And you're not racing them. You see what, they might be in 15 or 16 seconds. They're not like 12 or 13 second 100 meters. At some point we'll run some fast 150s or fast hundreds, but not generally after a run when we're doing strides.
You mentioned a minute ago some of those flashier workouts that are very few and far between, like a 4x8 at 2:06. On those days when you wake up, does it feel a little bit like race day of like, oh, this is one of the few opportunities a year that we get after it, and I get to see my athletes run hard? Yeah,
definitely. And they know it's going to be a hard workout. I mean, I don't usually drop it on them. Like sometimes I might not tell them the whole workout, but they know they're going to run hard. So like in December, like I've done it to Ellie a couple of times. I said, let's just do a 3K, and she ran like, and I can't remember the exact time, but I want to say she ran like 8:50, and she thought that was really good, and then I was like, all right, you got 5 minutes and we're doing it again, and then she runs 8:45, and then she's like, oh man, I am in good shape, but like a little bit off guard, caught her a little bit off guard, or Parker did something similar to that back in December, so we knew she was we know she's in a pretty good spot, and now just had a really good training camp out in Flagstaff. So I mean, Parker ran 8:34 the other night, first pro race. I think she can probably run 14:35 or something right now, and she's only 22 years old. So it will be, it's going to be fun to see her develop over the next couple of years.
Yeah, speaking specifically on Parker, what's it been like to see her talent and now have a hand in developing that talent in the years to come?
No, it's been great. I got to know her. I got to know her and her mom and dad. Fairly well over the last year. I wasn't sure she was going to end up on New Balance Boston, but I could tell she was, a nice person. And since she's been in Boston, like I feel like we hit a home run because she's funny as heck. She doesn't take herself too seriously. She takes her running seriously, but like I can goof on her, she can goof on me. All the women on the team can goof on her, and like she fits right in, And being 22 and like literally moving to Boston when you're 22 and, only having a few friends that, really no friends. She just knows the women on the team. They're friends now. Like that takes some guts and commitment. And like, I'm very proud of her for doing that. And she's very, very good. There's no question in my mind. She's very good. So hopefully, she keeps progressing and she likes Boston and, things like that. I told her, like I've told her a few times, like, if it really gets crappy up here and snowy now, because it didn't snow once when we were in Flag, and it's been cold here. We've only been here for a week, but it's been pretty cold. And like, we'll do a couple of races, but I'm gonna like, hey, like after indoors, we're gonna go back and do a little base phase. I'm gonna be like, hey, if you want to get back down to Florida, and do a little base phase, that's fine with me, like getting some sun, and because she's not going to be used to it, like March gets old up here, so maybe we'll take the whole team down to Florida for a week or two or something like that, just to break it up. But we'll all go back to altitude in April.
The important question: has she convinced you to try kombucha yet?
Yes, I've drank it beforehand.
Okay.
I've drank it more since she's been on the team, but she's a big kombucha fan. She loves Whole Foods. Like
Obsessed
Whole Foods obsessed. Whole Foods should sponsor her, So.
So funny.
Yeah.
Last time I talked to her, I lived in Austin in 2023, and their world headquarters is in Austin. I think that's where it started. And
Yeah.
so I went a bunch,
Yep.
and I think she found that out and was about to get off their call and fly down to Austin to see it in
Yeah.
person because she loves Whole Foods so much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in my
Definitely.
conversations with Coach Will Palmer, her coach in
Yep.
college, he shared a story with me that just like her first week on campus, he was like, "This is the biggest talent I've ever had." What's it been like to see her do some of these workouts, do some of the training, and just see, obviously, like you see the results in college, but then to get a front row seat at the training and see how hard she
Yeah.
works and how much she cares about the sport? What has that been like?
Yeah, I mean, first, like Will just did a tremendous job with her. Just the way the amount of mileage she ran, the cross training, and like they figured it out, right? And like, and Will's just been super supportive of her coming up here and working with me. If I have a question, I can text him and right back to me. So like, he did a tremendous job, and he didn't cook her, which occasionally a college coach will cook an athlete and they don't perform that well as a pro, and that's like one of the things that we look for on New Balance Boston. We look for athletes that we feel like might be a little bit undertrained, that we can see the potential in, that maybe some of our competitors, other shoe companies don't even notice. Like, I mean, I have basically three people on my team that no one else really wanted: Heather McLean, Elle St. Pierre, and Heather McLean, Emily Mackay, and Elle St. Pierre. Like no one really wanted them. Yeah, and
not
like,
a bad duo.
yeah, it's like the three best milers in the country, and throw Nikki. There's other people in there, but they could go 1, 2, 3. We thought we were going to go 1, 2, 3 at the trials, and we were 1, 2, 3 with 200 to go, and then Heather, just tied up a little bit, but you never know. So I like that he didn't kill her. Will didn't kill her, and hopefully I won't kill her, and she'll keep improving. When she does workouts, she's an aerobic monster. Like her heart rate stays low, very, very low. She can do tempo and threshold stuff all day long. She can do 10K work all day long. But we also feel like if we can get her a teeny bit faster without breaking her down, like, because in a lot of big races now, like it does come down to the last 100 or last lap or something like that. And if the race is going really fast, then you don't have to have the best kick in the world, but you still have to have a kick. Like I would say, like Ellie on my team, she doesn't have the best kick in the world, but if the race is hard, she can kick with anybody in the world. And I want to get Parker like to that somehow. So like, she's not gonna run in a race that's 33 minutes. She's gonna make it 30 minutes, and then try to kick when you're exhausted. It's different, It's like Parker outkicked Georgie Bell last weekend, and Georgie went third in the Olympics in 1500, and Parker outkicked her over the last lap. Parker wasn't flying coming in, but still faster than those guys. So that's what I mean by like developing her a kick, I think.
What would you say is her best event from what you know thus far from her training? You mentioned she's an aerobic beast. Marathon one day, maybe? Maybe
a marathon. But I know, like, in her heart, she really wants to, do the 10 in LA and, be in contention for a medal with a lap to go. And it doesn't mean you're going to get a medal, but it might mean you'll get one if you're with the leaders with a lap to go. Who knows, right? So I think that's what she's thinking. I mean, I know that's what she's thinking.
Speaking on some other members of the team, can you give some airtime to the other individuals who make up the team? I know Parker more recently with the recent signing of her, as well as like Ellie throughout the years, get a lot of the attention and praise. But as you talked about before, the 7th and 8th man matter just as much as number 1. So can you talk about the team as a whole and the culture you guys have created over the years?
Sure. I mean, we've tried really hard to make the team like a family the best I can. It's never perfect. Like a family's never perfect. You're going to have little battles here and there, but at the end of the day, you want everybody to look out for each other on the team. And when we go to a meet, I want them to feel comfortable, warming up with their teammates or going out to dinner. I don't want them ever to feel like isolated when they're at a meet or something like that. I think that's important, to be comfortable when you get somewhere. But on the team, on the team right now, we have Leah Meyer. She's from Germany, and she's a really good runner, but barely anybody even know who she is. She came in 10th in the Olympics last summer in the steeplechase. She ran 9:09, and she's from Germany, and she just fits in seamlessly, and everybody loves her. She's in Boston now. She's gonna go home pretty soon and run the German indoor champs and try to run Europeans this indoors. Hopefully, I'll go over there and help her at that meet. And then another person on the team is Millie Palladino. She was All-American at Providence College, but when she moved up here, she moved up to like the 5 and the 10, and I think she's going to be one of the best 10K runners in the country this year and next year. She was pretty close a couple years ago, and then she had Haglund surgery on her foot, and so it's taken her a little bit while to bounce back, but she's 100% healthy now, so she's just getting into shape. My daughter Katrina's on the team, so Will's sister. So she's on the team. She went to Georgetown. They won NCAA cross country at Georgetown. Coach Milt was the coach of Georgetown then. And Katrina led Georgetown, outkicked everybody, and led Georgetown to the DMR championship. They won NCAAs in the DMR, and that's a big deal. And that's the kind of kid Katrina is. She probably could have been battling for a win in the mile or the 3K or something at NCs, but she wanted to, they wanted to go for a win as a team, which is, that's the stuff that I think's, really cool. We have Shifra on the team from Ireland, 800 meter Olympian, 159, 2 flat. We have a couple of guys on the team. Derek Johnson, who ran for UVA, he's due for a really big breakthrough, I think. He ran, just the other night, he ran 3:53 in the mile, and then came back and paced the 5K in 7:48. That's a pretty good double with not much rest. Christian Noble's on the team. He's like the all-time D2 NCAA champ, and he's run pretty well for us. He's struggled a little bit over the last year, but he just had his best training camp at Flag out of probably like 4 or 5 of them. So I think he might have a good outdoors, a good year this year. Trying to think if I'm missing anybody. I might be missing somebody, but they all get along really well. Like some of them, a lot of them always used to live together, but then they get boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever, and now like some of them are living with their significant others, or some of them got married, but like Heather's in Ellie's wedding, and Katrina was in Leanne's wedding. Like this, Leanne's not on the team anymore, but like the whole group kind of, they pretty much for the most part, look out for each other. Yeah. Then, like we say, and one thing I say is like train together and do all this together, but when you race, like you want to kick your teammate's butt, like you're not gonna like, hey Parker, go ahead of me, you had a better week. No, like Katrina, you try to kill Parker in a race, or beat him, or Ellie, do not let Emily beat you in a 1500, or Emily, don't let Ellie beat you. You guys race to the death, but other than, except for when we're racing, like friends off the track, then you can be enemies on the track, or whatever, but something like that.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. When you look back on your coaching career, what are some of your most proud moments?
I like one of the big ones was the first time that Abby D'Agostino at the time, when she won her first NCAAs, she won the 5K when she was a sophomore at Dartmouth, and we knew she was going to be close, and she just won, and it just got she started snowballing and crushing everybody after that. So that was a big deal to me, and her being such a nice person, that was big. I don't know, you might be a little bit too young, but when she got tripped in the Rio Olympics and fell down, and the first thing that she did was help the competitor that tripped her up and then make sure that person was okay, and that just showed what kind of a person she is. Like she was willing to, more worried about someone else's health, well-being in this crazy moment. That's just a special person. And she won. The Olympics has this award that they give to like the Olympic spirit or something like that, and they say it's even more valuable than a gold medal, and Abby got that, so it's something that I'm really proud of, because like I coached there for 4 years at Dartmouth, and then like 4 years leading into those Olympics or something like that. So I feel like I had a little part in that, and like of her just being a special person. So that's a big deal to me, And then like, anytime someone, when we went 1-3 in the 1500 for the Tokyo Olympics, big deal. That was a big deal. Ellie and Heather both making it from UNH and UMass. Nobody really wanted them, and then they just kicked everybody's butt. And then like last year, Ellie and Emacs from SUNY Binghamton, same thing, like we found these little diamonds in the rough and like tried to help them, get there. So lots of stuff like that. Yeah. So lots of good moments, I guess.
Yeah, so many. That's how you want to keep it. For you, final serious question. For those who listen to this podcast, they want to get better. They look at someone like you who's transformed so many athletes' lives. What would the final message be to an athlete out there who wants to take their running to the next level this year? What are some things they can do to improve and get better and make 2025 their best running year yet? Well,
number one, it has to be fun, right? It's not a job, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun, right? It's supposed to, you're supposed to look forward to getting up and going running, or looking forward to going to practice and being around your buddies, I would say, I used to tell the team at Dartmouth, like, we're going to run hard at practice or whatever, but I really want practice to be your best 2 hours of the day, your most fun 2 hours of the day, even though like it could be a hard day. So I would, I'd say that's really important. And then, be consistent, really be consistent with your training. Don't have 1 week, then miss a week, then have a week, try to be, as consistent as you can be. And also like one bad race doesn't define a season. So, it's not like it's easy to just get back on the horse or forget about it. 'Cause that's like, it's hard. I mean, I ran, it's hard to forget about stuff, and it's an important part of your makeup. But I would say, if you have a bad race, please don't let running define who you are. You're still a good person, And like when we go to the Olympic trials or a big race, like I always tell the team, like, listen, I hope everybody makes the team, or everybody has a PR or whatever. But like, at the end of the day, like, if you don't make the team, your mom and dad are still going to love you. Your coach is still going to love you. Your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, still going to be there for you. Your best friends, they hope you make it, but it's still going to be your best friends. So it's like, everything's going to be okay. So like when you walk out, in a state meet or a state championship or NCAA meet, like when you get out there, look around, say, hey, I put a lot of work in. I'm going to run as hard as I can, do the best I can. And I'm just not, and I know I'm going to put it out there, and I know I'm going to have a pretty good run, and then I'm going to be happy, the best I can regardless. You can't not be disappointed if you don't hit your goals, but if your goals are realistic and you have consistent training, you're going to be close to them. You're going to get really, really close to them. I firmly believe that.
Mark, one final question for you. The question I ask every single guest on every single podcast, any on a lighter note. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Oh man, I don't know. My favorite meal is my mom's spaghetti and meatballs. So I'd probably ask him to make my mom spaghetti and meatballs, because she's starting to get a little bit old and she doesn't make. I don't get to have it as much anymore, and I have the recipe, but I can't duplicate it. So I'd ask Gordon to make that for me.
I love it. Bring you back to the good old days. Well, Coach, really appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for taking the time to share so many insights and wisdom from your successful both athletic career as an individual in the sport and now as a coach. Keep crushing it, and excited to see your athletes continue to thrive this year.
Awesome. Thank you very much.